معامنا وأسألك مستخلصا لا خائفا ولا وجلا مضلا عليك فيما كسدت فيه إليك فإن أبتع عني أتبت بجهلي عليه ولعل الذي أبتع عني هو خير لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد الله منك عليه يا ربي إنك تدعوني فولي عنك وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك كان لي يتطاول عليك فلم يمنعك ذلك من رحمتك لي ولساني إليه وتفضلي علي بجودك وكرمك فارحم عبدك الجاهل واجهد عليه بفضل إحسانك إنك جواد كريم الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسهل الرياح فالك الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرتك والحمد لله على طول عناته في غضبك وهو قادر على ما يريد الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالك الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادل ولا شبيه يشاكل ولا زهير يعازل قهر بعزة الأعزة وتوازع لعظمة العظمى فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويسر علي كل أورة وعناء أعصي ويعظم نعمة علي فلا أجازي فكم من موهبة خنية قد أعطاني وعزيمة مخوفة قد كفاني وبهجة مونكة قد أراني فأثني عليه حامدا وأشكر مسبها الحمد لله الذي لا يغتق حجابه ولا يهلك بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يهيب عامله الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويرزق المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين الحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدك الهاربين نكال الظالمين سريع المستصرخين موزي حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين الحمد لله الذي من خشيتي ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وأمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيد الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتي أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتهننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك كأنبيائك ورسلك وصفتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخير رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبي العظيم وصل على صديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهرة سيدة نساء العالمين وصل على سبط الرحمة وإمام الهدى الحسن والحسين سيد شباب أهل الجنة وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك ومنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائما. اللهم صل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتصر وخفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله داعيا إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبل مكن له دينه لارتزيت له عبدله من بعد خوفي أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وعزيز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عزيزا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي من شيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الحق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله وتذل بها النفاق وأهله وتجعلنا فيها من دعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا وما كسرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المن به شعثنا واشحب به صدأنا وارتق به فتكنا وكسر به كلتنا وعزز به ذلتنا واغني به آئلنا واقصي به عن مكرمنا واجبر به فكنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به أسنا وبيس به وجوهنا وفك به أسنا وعنجي به طلبتنا وانجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وآتنا به سولنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وآتنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المعطين. اشف به صدورنا وأزل به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إلى الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلاتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكسرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا فصل على محمد وآله وإنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجل وبزر تكشف ونصر تؤز وسلطان حكيم تظهر ورحمة منك تجللناها وعافية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فادخلنا وفي إليين فارفعنا وبكاس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الحور العين برحمتك فزوجنا ومن الولدان المخلدون مخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأحلمنا ومن ثمار الجنة والهوم الطير فأطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فأوفق لنا وسعي الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي أصابك وحوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن السقوم والزري فلا تطعمنا ومن الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي نار على وجوهك فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل الكتران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا اللهم صل على محمد وآل اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المختوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور حجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل عمري في خير وعافية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل به غيري بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلة هذه ولك الكبل تبية أو ذنب تعذبني عليه اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور اللهم أغني كل فقير اللهم اشفي كل جائع اللهم اكفي كل عريان اللهم اكفي دين كل مدين اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب اللهم رد كل غريب اللهم فك كل أسير اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين اللهم اشفي كل مريض اللهم اشفي كل مريض اللهم اشفي كل مريض اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك اللهم غير سؤالنا بحسن حالك اللهم اقضي عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير اللهم صل على محمد سورة البركة الفاتحة
فاتحة. सलामी हर तरफ शोरे बुका है विदाए हज़रते मुश्किल कुशा है विदाए हज़रते मुश्किल कुशा है तज़ल्लुल मस्जिदे कूफा में है आज सुतूने काबे ईमान गिरा है सुतूने काबे ईमान गिरा है अली इब्ने अबी तालिब मेरा शेर अभी तलवार से ज़ख्मी हुआ है अभी तलवार से जख्मी हुआ है। किसी ने जुज़ली खातिर को अपने दमे इफ्तार भी शरबत दिया, दमे इफ्तार भी शरबत दिया है। अली ऐसा सखी था दरेगा गला शब्बीर का प्यासा, गला शब्बीर का प्यासा कटा है। पकड़ कर इब्ने मुलजिम को जो लाए, कहा असहाब ने अब हुक्म क्या है। बशफ़क़त पूछा क़ातिल से अली ने, ख़ता मेरी है या तेरी ख़ता है। किया बिन बाप का बच्चों को मेरे, किया बिन बाप का बच्चों को मेरे, यही एहसान का मेरे सिला है, यही एहसान का मेरे सिला है। सलामी हर तरफ, दुरूद बर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, khatamin nabiyyin, shafi'il mudhnibin, rahmatan lil alameen. Maulana wa sayyidina Abil Qasim Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء وعجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Amma ba'du, my respected elders, brothers and sisters, yesterday we had discussed that in the Islamic way of understanding, all times are not the same, even though in non-Islamic environments, in our usual daily lives, people treat them as the same. They don't see any difference between, for example, 12 p.m. and 1 p.m., 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. But we have a different way of looking at the timings. In Islam, one of the most helpful things in achieving spirituality is to have a good routine in life. And the routine is all very, very important, because what happens is a mu'min will make his or her routine around these kinds of special times. Last night we discussed regarding Sahar time and Tulu'ain. Sahar was that short period of time before Fajr. Tulu'ain is from Fajr until the Qaza of Fajr, the Tulu'ain, the two risings of the sun. One rising of the sun is at Fajr time. It's a sort of rising because you see that glow of the sun in the sky, and hence you know it's Fajr. And then the proper rising of the sun, where the disk comes up on the horizon. Today I want to discuss some more of this. So not only is the night time very blessed, even in the daytimes, Allah, you'll see how He places His mercy and forgiveness and grace at different times in the day. So we have this concept in Islam where we have times of nur, more nur available. What is nur? Nur is like that godly light, illumination, you can say. There are times in our lives when we feel very, very elated. We can't explain why, but all of a sudden we feel kind of spiritual. We find ourselves feeling more closer to God. These are very, very special times. These are special times where we want to replicate them, but it's very difficult to replicate them. And sometimes we feel very down, very gloomy. Sometimes we don't even know the reason. Why am I feeling down? Why do I have a lack of energy? Why do I have a lack of attraction towards ibadat and worship and godly things? This is all to do with this thing called nur of Allah, grace of Allah, tawfiq of Allah, which is available to the mu'min if he sorts out his daily routine. Let me explain more. So the heart of a person, everyone is created in this world with a spiritual pull. This is what we call fitrat. Fitrat is that God-given inclination towards godliness. It is present in every single individual, religious, non-religious, Muslim, non-Muslim, atheist, believer, it doesn't matter. Every single human being is given this pull towards godliness and goodness. Then throughout life, we do certain things and this gets pushed down, it gets clouded, it gets dirty, it doesn't shine as it should. So, we have discussed already regarding Namaz-e-Shab. Namaz-e-Shab is that special worship which gives very much a lot of nur to a person. Now what does this mean? Does this mean all of a sudden his face will be glowing? Does it mean he'll have a halo around him? No, not necessarily like that. There will be something special about this person. There will be something amazing about this person. This person will have this kind of awe and respect and that kind of haybat, what we call in Arabic, haybat, that kind of awe, A-W-E, that he has this kind of very, very serene, dignified, honorable light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone asked Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He was asked, how is it that those who do namaz-e-shab, how is it, why is it? They wanted an explanation. Why is it that they get this kind of nur on their face, then this kind of illumination? He replied in a very beautiful way. He said, because they have spent very special moments with their Lord, and their Lord has clothed them with a clothing of nur. Allah has given them this nur. Allah has given them this special kind of aura, if you like, a special kind of characteristic that they have. Now let's look at what the sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. In this hadith, Imam gives us a series of actions and what their result is. Okay? So this is what Imam says. I've only brought 3 of these sentences. There are other sentences. Talabtu nur al-qalb. Imam says, I looked for and I searched for nur of the heart. What is going to make my heart illuminated, more godly, more inclined towards good things, more inclined towards worship, more inclined towards Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, more inclined towards Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam Zaman, all of these things. What do I do for this? فَوَجَدْتُهُ فِي التَّفَكُّرِ وَالْبُكَاءِ. I found the answer is in deep reflection and tears in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, crying in front of Allah. We live in a society at the moment where we're so busy, we are so much pulled in every direction, we don't have time to even stop and think sometimes. We don't have time even to take a time out sometimes and just sit, relax, think, meditate, ponder. And the hardness of our hearts because of our occupations, our busyness, our mind is clogged, our hearts are all over the place, they become hardened. If we can soften those hearts, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that this will produce Noorul Qalb. So what is the first practical point of this evening? Take some time. Even if it's a minute, 60 seconds, start with that. 60 seconds is too much. 30 seconds. Start with 30 seconds. Can I sit with my phone away? Little bit of privacy, little bit of sukoon, little bit of silence, little bit of quiet, and just ponder. Then don't worry about what you're going to ponder on. Just let your mind ponder, think deeply. The greatness of Allah. Bring that in your mind. Allah is great. What does this mean? In what way is He great? What are His names? What am I proclaiming when I'm saying Allahu Akbar? What does this mean? Bring that in your mind. Think about these things. Then Imam says, وَطَلَبْتُ الْجَوَازَ عَلَى الصِّرَاطِ. Imam says, I looked for how in the hereafter can a person pass quickly over the bridge of Sirat, Pule Sirat. How can a person go over quickly, cross quickly on the Sirat? In other words, how could the hereafter be easier for him? فَوَجَدْتُهُ, I found it, فِي الصَّدَقَةِ, in charity. Charity is one of those things that makes the hereafter very much easier than it can be otherwise. Charity is very, very important. It allows a number of things to happen. Number one, what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says. Number two, it removes bala, calamity, misfortune. Number three, it helps with life, lengthening of life, and so many other things. And then the final one, which is the point I want to make. وَطَلَبْتُ نُورَ الْوَجْهِ. I looked for the source of how to increase the nur of the face. فَوَجَّدْتُهُ فِي صَلَاةِ اللَّيْلِ. And I found that the nur of the face is in namaz-e-shab, salatul layl. All of these things. We should never think that we are somehow in this world and we are disconnected from the hereafter until we die. We are not. Let's make that very clear. While you are in this world, you are actually right now building your hereafter. It is not the case that once you die, then Allah sets to work and His angels start to work and they build this hereafter. No, we are building it right now. Whatever we do, we are contributing to our hereafter. It's a real time, right now, something happening for us right now. There was a man, he comes to the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He says, "O Prophet of God, look, I've come from far. I don't live in Medina. I come from a long way away." Yeah, many of you can probably relate to this. I come from a long way away. I have limited time. I want you to teach me religion. I want you to teach me religion. We have been living for how long? 40, 50, 60, 70 years? We haven't learned religion, although we've sat in many, many majalis. This guy, in a few minutes, in one sitting, wants to learn religion. Rasulullah says to his companion, he says, go and teach him. Go and teach him, whatever you can teach him. The companion goes. After a few moments, not long, the man comes back and says, thank you, Rasulullah, I've learned what I need to learn, I'm going. He says, Khudafiz, he goes. The companion looks at Rasulullah and says, Ya Rasulullah, although he had come to learn religion, I think he wasn't that serious. He didn't spend too long with me. The Prophet says to him, just tell me, what did you discuss with him? What did you teach him? He said, I want to learn the Quran. So I started with Surah Zilzal, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. And then he was listening carefully, he was learning from me, and then we came to the last verses. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. What does that mean? Whoever does an atom's worth of good will see it. Whoever does an atom's worth of evil will see it. This is the translation. He says, when I came to these two verses at the end of Surah Zilzal, he stopped me. He said, enough. I've received what I wanted, I'm going. I've understood this, I've digested it, I'm going. Rasulullah says to his companion, Raja'a faqihan. He came as maybe not knowing much. he has returned as someone deeply grounded in the knowledge of religion because of these two verses. Because he has internalized, he has properly digested, internalized this one concept, this will do him now for the rest of his life. Anyone who can digest these two concepts will never go wrong. Anything I do right now, what I think, dharra, right? Mithqala dharratin, atom's worth. The smallest thing you can think of. Probably at that time they didn't have a concept of neutrons and electrons and things smaller than an atom. Otherwise the Quran would have used that word. The smallest thing you can think of, every word, every thought, every action, every attitude, every look. I look at someone in a cruel way. I try to scare him and threaten him. That is hisab. My words are hisab. My actions are hisab. Where I walk, what I see, what I hear, whoever I engage with. All of these things are included under mithqala dharratin. You will receive its goodness or you will receive its evil. One way or the other, you are building your akhirat now. So, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, when I looked for noor of the face, I found that it is in namaz-e-shab. These moments of the day are very, very special. We should never be heedless of our times of the night, sahar, fajr. Now let's go on a little bit more. Fajr time. So we've discussed sahar, we've discussed tulu'ain. Let's take a little bit of a step back and go to fajr time. Every part of this day, of this 24-hour cycle of the day, has its own significance. When we say in dua iftitah, وَأَيْقَنْتُ أَنَّكَ أَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ, I am certain that you and only you are the most merciful of the mercifuls. This is why what I'm going to explain. When you grasp this concept, you will all say it from the bottom of your heart. وَأَيْقَنْتُ أَنَّكَ أَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Fajr time. The beauty of Fajr time is that the angels of Allah at Fajr time are at their maximum amount. You know why? It is the time of changing of the guard. We have different groupings of angels. The world of the angels is something very fascinating. The most number of any one species that Allah has created is angels. More than any insect, more than the human race, more than whatever other race or species you can think of, angels are the highest in number. There are more angels than there are grains of sand upon this earth. This world of angels is intriguing. There are angels of the day, there are angels of the night. At the time of Fajr, there is a changing of the guard. The angels of the night are going, the angels of the day are coming. Whatever you do at that time, you get more blessings because all the angels are present at that time, these two groups, and they are observing you. This is why Quran says in Surah Isra, Inna Quran al-Fajri kana mashhuda. The namaz and the recitation of Quran as well at the time of Fajr is indeed witnessed. Witnessed by whom? Why is it so special? Because of the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These angels bring with them the grace and the blessings and the tawfiq and all the kindness and the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that's the case at Fajr time, the same will apply to sunset as well. Again, there's a changing of the guard because now day is going into night. Night is beginning, day is ending. Quran says, وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ قَبْلَ طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ وَقَبْلَ غُرُوبِهَا. Engage in the praise and celebration of your Lord before the rising of the sun and before the sunset. So where we had the sunrise of Fajr, here we have the sunset of Maghrib. This is also a blessed time. In this time, there are certain du'as to be recited, very short du'as. Honestly, when I was looking through, you'll find most of them you know by heart anyway. Most of them are just like the Subhanallahi walhamdulillah and these kinds of things in a certain specific way. Look in Mafati, you'll find it. These are to be recited, very short, very quick and very sweet. These are to be recited at these times. Why? What are the advantages? Let's have a quick discussion on that with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the first thing to say about these times, sunrise and sunset. The worst thing you can do at this time is to be asleep. To be asleep. Our community has missed out on this for a long time. We haven't put enough focus on this. We have typically not spent enough effort on this thing, or we haven't made it clear to people the damages it is causing to be asleep at these times. Sunrise and sunset. Sunrise still, to a certain extent, you can imagine, because it is usually the time when people are still asleep. But sunset, my God, if you have a habit of sleeping around sunset time, you must stop this. Sunset time sleeping has very detrimental effects on the heart and even on the mind. Science may not have discovered this yet, but in our Islamic literature, this is there. So here we have a hadith from Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. He says, Shaitan the accursed mobilizes his forces at 2 times, at the rising and setting of the sun. And thus these 2 times are known as the times of heedlessness. This is when a person can become very carefree, relaxed. You're tired, you're back from work, it's the end of the day, you don't want too much headache, you don't want too much stress. You become very heedless very quickly of God. It's very quick, it's very easy just to switch off and not to spend time thinking about Allah, and they capitalize upon those times. So the points to bear in mind regarding sunset and sunrise are as follows. Number 1, they are very powerful for sustenance. Sustenance, rizq. Rizq is not always in money. Rizq can be in knowledge. Rizq can be in spiritual power. Rizq can be in, for example, ma'rifat of Allah, gaining more awareness of God. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam says, he says, never sleep at the time of sunrise, for indeed I detest this for you. Allah distributes His sustenance to His creatures at that time by way of us, the Ahlul Bayt, with our wasila. Number 2, misfortune. To escape from misfortune, be awake at these times. The bala which is removed from a person at these times is exceptional. In this regard, we have to bear in mind, there are certain things that are beyond our control. Allah knows best. He has His own rules and regulations. It's not that you will never experience any problems in your life. This world cannot go ahead without problems. But the beauty of this is, we're not saying the world becomes a utopia for you. You may still have problems, but those problems will not affect you as much. You'll be able to deal with them better. They won't be as bad to you. They won't feel as harsh on you. You will have the power to deal with them. This is the difference. Again, the third one is that staying awake at this time and being alert and attentive will safeguard 4 bounties of Allah. 4 bounties that He has given us, it protects these bounties. Number 1 is it protects your level of recognition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do we find sometimes that we had strong iman, then it wanes and goes away? Muharram comes again, strong iman, it goes away. Arba'in comes, a little bit strong iman, it goes away. We go for ziyarat, strong iman, it goes away, it dwindles, it goes away from us. Ramadan comes, strong iman, and then it goes away again. Why does this happen? Part of it is our lack of routine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us that, look, I have set up the day for you in a certain way. You have to build your routine around this. We want to tell Allah, no, you build your routine around us. He says, no, it doesn't work like that. I'm sorry. I have made the routine. You build your life around my routine. So number 1, it protects ma'rifat of Allah. Number 2, faith and level of belief, a person's iman. Number 3, rizq, which we've already discussed. And number 4, Allah grants extreme protection to a person when he stays awake at these times. He protects our honor and dignity. Honestly, if people knew really some of the things we were doing and thinking and saying, we would be very much embarrassed. Allah protects us from this. Allah conceals this. Allah hides this from other people. He keeps our honor and dignity. In this way, staying awake at these times protects this. If you choose to sleep at these times, then it also brings its own effects. It has some disadvantages when you sleep at this time. The personality that we are currently commemorating, Amirul Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, Inna an-nawm qabla tulu'i shams, sleeping before sunrise and sleeping at the time of Isha, meaning late evening. So that means you sleep and then you wake up and then you can't sleep again because you've already had that nap in the evening. Yurithul faqr, brings poverty. Washatat al-amr, and it causes complications in your affairs. Have you seen sometimes when we plan something and we think this should be very straightforward, this is something very easy, this should happen no problem. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's all these complications that comes. You plan something, you think about it, you look at it, you budget for it, you've done everything right, it should be very straightforward, all of a sudden problems. Out of nowhere you find problems. What should have taken you 1 hour has now taken you 5. What should have been a 2-day project has taken you 2 weeks. What should have been a 1-month thing has now taken 6 months. Why? Part of it is to do with this. Amirul Mu'mineen says, your affairs become very complicated. Your work gets more complicated than it should be. There are hurdles and obstacles as a result. Number 2, your belief is affected. You will be inflicted with blindness of the heart. Cognizance of Allah disappears. Iman becomes weak. 6 months ago you were ready to trust Allah with your life. Now you can't bear to trust Him even with a simple matter. All of a sudden you were saying to every morning salam to Imam Zaman. Now you don't have time to think about him. At one time you were reciting 2 siparas a day, 1 sipara a day, half a sipara a day. All of a sudden you don't have time, you're too busy because of all the other things going on in your life. Your life has become very complicated. Number 4, it causes dependence on others for your sustenance. One of the hardest things to bear in this world, especially in the West. When you work for someone or you work in a situation where you are made to feel very low for your sustenance. Those who have experienced it will tell you, we would exchange anything in this world but to be made zaleel for our sustenance. This also comes as a result. So these are some more of the timings. So what have we discussed so far? We've discussed before Fajr, Fajr time, Tulu Ain, sunrise and sunset. Tomorrow inshallah, I will talk a little bit about the daytime, the actual afternoon time. That also has a very strong significance. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq, for His forgiveness, to bless our marhumeen, to give us strength, to give us sabr, to give us sukoon in our life, to remove our hurdles and obstacles. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always keep us with the love of Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen, as per the history, we try to picture as much as we can what he is going through at this moment. Last night at Fajr time, he is struck in the Masjid of Kufa. Immediately he begins to feel weakness in his body. Number 1, he's struck with a sword. Number 2, the sword was poisoned very badly with a very harsh poison. As I said yesterday, the first thing that happens is that he leans back into the lap of Imam Hassan. Imam Hassan alayhi salam begins to cry. His tears fall on the face of Amirul Mu'mineen. Amirul Mu'mineen gives sabr and strength to Imam Hassan. Amirul Mu'mineen is the one who is struck. He is the one going through the pain. But such was his strength and courage and character, he was giving sabr to those around him. They get Amirul Mu'mineen. He says, I need to finish my prayer. The Ravi, the reporter says, Amirul Mu'mineen at that moment had lost so much blood and he was so much weakened. He could not even stand in a proper way. He was stumbling as he was standing. They then assist Amirul Mu'mineen. All the ashab are afflicted with this pain. They are crying, they are aggrieved. They hear a sound from the sky. It was none other than Jibreel. He was saying, Tahaddamat wallahi arkanul huda. By God, The pillars of guidance have been shaken. When Ali is struck, the angels cry, the angels mourn, the mu'mineen cry and the mu'mineen mourn. They take Ali, Imam Ali alayhi salam, they take him, helping him along. They want to reach him to his house. Before he reaches his house, they say that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who has heard about what has happened, he comes running. When he sees his father, just by the news of what has happened to Imam Ali, Imam Hussein had cried so much that his eyes were wounded. Imam Ali looks at Imam Hussein and says, Hussein, have sabr. Do not grieve. These things happen. Have sabr. Be strong. Imam Hussein is given strength by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then after a few steps, something happens which breaks even the strength of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen was strong in front of Hassan. He was strong in front of Hussein. But when the cries of Zainab reach the ears of Amir al-Mu'mineen, he can no longer give anyone strength. Hearing Zainab crying, he also begins to cry. Now Amir al-Mu'mineen's strength has gone by hearing the cries of Zainab. We say, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, you hear the cries of Zainab and you are broken on the streets of Kufa. Mawla, if only you had been there on Sham-e-Ghariba and you would have seen Zainab crying on that evening, how would you have taken the cries of Zainab? Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimin wa sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun matame Hussein.
कहती थी ज़ैनब बादिल मुस्तर है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब बादिल मुस्तर है बाबा शेर खुदा तेग लगी ये कैसी सर पर है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब है बाबा सर जो तेरा दो टुकड़े हुआ है खून में चेहरा डूब रहा है हाल ये तेरा किसने किया है बाबा शेर खुदा बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब तुझको न समझे नाएबे आमद जुल्म किया ये कैसा बेहद आज कहाँ है नाना मोहम्मद है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब रे खुदा किसको मुसीबत अपने सुनाए किसको ये अपना हाल दिखाए पीठ के सर हम किधर को जाए है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब शेर खुदा एक तरफ कुलसूम ये कहती हाय क़यामत हो गई कैसी उठ गई रौनक दीन नबी की है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैन बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब है बाबा खुदा आज मदीना हो गया वीरा उठ गया तुझसे दीन का सुल्तान हो गए हैं हम बेसरो सामा है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब बादिल मुस्तर है बाबा शेर खुदा कहती थी ज़ैनब है बाबा शेर खुदा अला तुल कौम ज़ालिमीन वसयअलमु الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك يا علي زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم، السلام عليك يا علي الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد التقي، السلام عليك يا علي النقي، السلام عليك يا حسن العسكري ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الأزر والزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، أجل الله تعالى فرجا وسهل الله مخرجا وذهول العم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعات وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على